A young man falls off a cliff, and when he hits the ground, he feels nothing. Red lights explode from his hands. He punches solid rock and it cracks. Something inside him has completely changed, and it all started with a bowl of shrimp he ate alone in the forest. His eyes open, and the first thing he registers is birdsong. Not normal birdsong. Not the familiar chirping of sparrows outside a bedroom window. This is something deeper, stranger, layered calls from birds he's never heard bouncing off trees taller and older than anything in the world he came from. His name is Yu. He's a regular high school student. Or he was, until a truck hit him. And now he's lying in a hut he built himself, in the middle of a forest that doesn't exist on any map, in a world that is very definitely not his own. He gets up, stretches, yawns like nothing is wrong. He's been here 2 full days, and that routine, that practiced, stubborn normalcy, is the only thing keeping him from losing his mind. But here's the part that gets me. Our boy doesn't cry about it. He doesn't stand in the forest screaming at the sky. He gets dressed because it's cold outside, and getting sick in a survival situation is a death sentence. Then he thinks about breakfast. Now, how'd he end up here? The most unfair way possible. He was excited for a weekend hike. Just a regular weekend. The noise of a city had been grinding him down, and he wanted trees, quiet, and fresh air for 2 days. He was on a sidewalk, thinking about trail snacks, when a truck appeared from absolutely nowhere. 1 second he existed in his world. The next, he didn't. Then he woke up here. No portal, no ceremony, no wise old man explaining the rules. Just trauma and transportation, in that order. But our guy does something most people wouldn't. He takes stock immediately. His backpack. That's literally everything he has. Inside, a towel, a utility knife, an aluminum lunchbox, and 2 bottles of mineral water. That's his entire arsenal for surviving in a completely unknown world full of completely unknown creatures. No food, no map, no weapons beyond a pocket knife. Most people would sit down and give up. Our boy does stretches and starts looking for water. He spends 10 minutes searching before he finds a stream. And living in that stream, in the shallow current between the rocks, are creatures that look almost like shrimp. But wrong. Their shells are thick and hard like stone, cylindrical in a way that doesn't match any shrimp he's ever seen. Strange, but he knows something useful. Certain creatures only survive in clean, healthy water. Their presence is the test. This stream is safe. He tastes it. It's better than any bottled water he's ever had. Day 1, water secured. Now food. He sets a simple trap near the stream, finds a clearing, builds a basic shelter from branches and leaves. Nothing impressive, just enough to keep him off the wet ground. He's not building a palace. He's building tomorrow. Morning comes, and the trap worked. Those same shrimp-like creatures, sitting in his snare with their thick, strange shells. He tries to break the shells with a rock. The rock bounces off. He tries harder. Nothing happens. These shells are built like actual armor. He wraps them in leaves and roasts them over fire. 20 minutes later, the heat has done what the rock couldn't, made the shells brittle enough to crack open. He pulls out the meat inside, takes a bite, and his face changes. Juicy, sweet, almost identical to shrimp and crab, with a stronger scent and a sandy texture that's easy to ignore when you're this hungry. In a forest in another dimension with nothing but a utility knife and borrowed courage. This is a gourmet meal. He eats with genuine enthusiasm. And then he makes the mistake. Inside one of the shrimp, he finds something that looks like roe. He's curious. He bites into it. His stomach clenches immediately. Sharp, unmistakable discomfort. The beginning of a food poisoning reaction. He spits it out and sits very still. After a minute, the feeling fades. He didn't eat enough to actually get sick. But something else is happening underneath the relief. He goes back to the moment he picked up the roe. There was a feeling, wasn't there? Subtle. A faint whisper from somewhere deep in his body, barely noticeable. He dismissed it. Now he reaches back for it deliberately, picks up the roe again, holds it in his palm. There it is. A soft, cold, unmistakable signal. Wrong. He drops it, picks up the normal shrimp meat. Nothing. No signal. Just neutral food. He sits in the quiet of the forest and lets the conclusion arrive. his body can sense poison. Touch something dangerous, and his body tells him before he consciously processes it. Touch something safe, and there's nothing, just silence. I want you to really understand what this means for him. He is alone in a completely unknown world. He doesn't know which plants will kill him. He doesn't know which berries will shut down his kidneys. He doesn't know what creatures are edible and which ones are dressed up little death traps. That kind of ignorance in real survival conditions gets you dead within a week. But now, his body is a living food scanner. Touch it first, eat it second. It's that simple. This changes everything about his odds of survival. And the best part, he didn't have to do anything to earn it except eat some slightly unusual shrimp. Day 3, he sets out properly. Goal: find high ground, get a view, figure out what this world actually looks like beyond the trees. He heads out of camp with energy and purpose. He gets maybe 100 meters before he sees them. Bright, colorful berries. Vivid red-orange, practically glowing against the dark leaves. The kind of color that reaches out and grabs your attention from 20 meters away. He reaches for one and stops cold. A sharp, crawling chill moves up through his fingertips and into his palm before he even consciously registers it. His hand opens on its own. The berries fall. Poisonous. His body knew before his brain did. A few steps further, a completely unremarkable bush. Small brownish-green fruits. Nothing appealing. The kind of thing you'd walk past 1,000 times without noticing. He picks one. Feels nothing. No warning. He bites into it. The crunch is immediate and firm. And then the aroma explodes in his mouth. Mango, powerful and tropical, but not sweet the way mango is sweet. Something more complex. Layered. A flavor combination that doesn't exist in any language he knows. He stands perfectly still in the middle of an unknown forest, holding this forgettable-looking fruit, and says out loud to no one, "Extraordinarily delicious." He fills every pocket he has. He keeps moving, spots a squirrel eating something from its paws, and makes a mental note. Finds mushrooms growing in thick clusters at the base of a wide tree. The deeper into the forest he goes, the more obvious it becomes. This place is packed with food. Fruits and vegetables and mushrooms and strange little animals everywhere. And with his ability, every single one of them is immediately testable. Touch first, eat second. It's a supermarket. Every shelf stocked, every product labeled safe or dangerous by the scanner in his gut. He starts to actually enjoy himself. And that's exactly when things go wrong. He reaches a cliff edge. There's a tree growing right at the rim, roots clutching the rocky edge like fingers. From one of its branches hangs a single, unusual fruit. Strange color, strange shape, no strong scent to it. He isn't hungry. He ate an hour ago. And yet, he wants that fruit. He really, genuinely wants it in a way that he can't explain and can't make go away. His feet start moving before he decides to move them, step by step toward the edge, toward the tree, toward the branch. Something in his mind says, stop. The signal doesn't come. The part of him that walks toward it doesn't listen. He presses himself against the trunk, reaches out for the branch, and the ground at the cliff edge crumbles under his weight. He falls. Time stretches. The cliff face rises above him. The ground below rushes up. Wind tears at his clothes. And our guy, falling through the air of a world that isn't his, with no one watching, no one to catch him, thinks, could it really not be over yet? He hits the ground and feels absolutely nothing. Not impact, not pain, not the bone-cracking collision he had 2 full seconds to mentally prepare for. Nothing. Just stillness. He's lying on the ground, intact, confused, completely unharmed. He looks at his hands. Red lights, crackling, glowing, dancing across his skin. Sparks of something he doesn't have a name for, wrapping around him like armor that appeared at the last possible second. He gets up, tests his legs, his arms. Everything works. He finds the exact spot where he landed and presses his palm to the ground. There's a faint impression in the dirt, like the force was absorbed by something and pushed outward instead of into him. An invisible shell. That's what saved him. And then the connection forms in his mind like a key turning in a lock. The shrimp. Those indestructible shells that bounced rocks off without a scratch. The shells that absorbed force like nothing. After roasting, they broke because the cooked shrimp could no longer activate whatever ability kept them impenetrable. He ate the shrimp meat, and now he has the shell. He closes his eyes, finds the sensation, that crackling energy just below the surface of his skin, and coaxes it out deliberately. Sparks appear. A shimmer runs up his arms. The air around him seems to contract slightly. He finds a solid rock, punches it as hard as he can. No pain, not even a sting, but a crack runs across the surface of the rock like a lightning bolt, sharp, clean, undeniable. He starts building. Not just surviving anymore, building, because our guy has realized something important. The spell only works if he's alive enough to use it. And staying alive long-term in an unknown world means tools, shelter, systems. He makes a wooden spear with a sharpened tip, fashions a stone axe, rough but functional, weaves a basket large enough to carry real quantities. He lays wood on the floor of his hut and packs it with moss for cushion. Builds a drying rack outside to preserve meat and fruit. It's not a home, but it starts to feel like one. Over the next several days, he eats everything he can safely test. His ability becomes reflex. Touch first, feel for the signal, eat if there's nothing. He works his way through the forest's inventory like a man on a mission, which he is. But not every meal gives him a new power. He eats dozens of different plants and fruits and mushrooms, and nothing new manifests. No sparks, no new sensations, no abilities. Then his stomach decides to punish him for his enthusiasm. Sharp cramping pain hits him one afternoon without warning. He lies in his hut thinking it through, and the conclusion isn't great. His ability tells him whether something is poisonous. It says nothing about whether eating 6 different unknown plants in a single afternoon will cause a reaction. Quantity matters. Combinations matter. He's been careless. He recovers after a full day of rest. But the lesson is written somewhere painful. Safe doesn't mean unlimited. This body has limits. Pay attention to them. A few days later, he goes back to the cliff. The tree at the edge is exactly where he left it. Same oily, smooth bark. He notices now that it feels the same regardless of weather, always slightly slick, like it's been designed to be touched. And looking more carefully at the roots, he realizes they don't just disappear into the dirt under the cliff edge. They extend outward and downward, reaching all the way to the base of the mountain far below. He follows the logic carefully. The tree grows specifically at cliff edges. Its presence generates some kind of biological signal, a lure, that makes creatures irrationally want to eat its fruit. Creatures approach the edge. They lose balance. They fall. The roots at the bottom absorb the nutrients from whatever lands. He looks over the edge. Bones. A large collection of them, scattered across the ground at the cliff base. Decades of victims. Maybe more. This tree is a predator. It doesn't move. It doesn't have teeth. But it hunts, and it hunts successfully, and it has been doing this for a very, very long time. If not for those shrimp on day 2, he would be part of that pile. He stands there looking at the bones for a long moment, and something shifts in how he sees this world. Beautiful, full of food, but genuinely dangerous in ways he's only beginning to understand. A rabbit runs past, and just like that, the mood snaps back to survival mode. Our guy has a spear. He has an axe. He's been living on fruit and roasted shrimp for nearly a week, and real protein is starting to feel like a distant memory. He lines up the throw. Let's fly. It connects. He processes the carcass immediately, bleeds it right there, guts it before the internal organs can start to decay. Survival knowledge he'd picked up from videos and articles back home, half expecting he'd never actually need it. He was wrong about a lot of things. And as he works, something unusual happens. A bird lands nearby, closer than birds usually land to people. Another rabbit peeks out from behind a bush, ears up, watching him with calm curiosity instead of the usual instant flight response. He thinks of the cliff tree, the lure, the biological signal that made his own feet carry him toward danger without conscious decision. He absorbed something from that tree when he tried to eat its fruit, didn't he? Not the trap, not the cliff edge mechanism, but the attraction, the signal that pulls living things toward you. He tests it deliberately, stays still, lets whatever is radiating from him do its thing. Small animals approach from the undergrowth. Herbivores mostly. They come within arm's reach, calm and drawn in ways that have nothing to do with normal animal behavior. He has a new ability, charm, the power to attract living creatures toward him passively. He has complicated feelings about this. On one hand, hunting just became dramatically easier. On the other hand, his presence now constitutes an involuntary trap for anything that wanders near him. That's a strange thing to carry. He puts it in the mental filing cabinet labeled "Think about this later" and focuses on the rabbit. And then he hears the scream. Sharp, female, full of real terror, coming from the direction of the cliff. He's already moving before the sound fully registers. He reaches the edge, looks over, and there, far below, lying on the bone-scattered ground, is a girl. She fell for the tree, just like he did, except she doesn't have a spell. He doesn't deliberate long. She's breathing. He can tell from above that she's not still in the way unconscious people are still. She's alive, and leaving a living person lying next to a pile of bones in a forest full of predators isn't something he's capable of doing, no matter who she is or where she came from. He finds a path down and carries her back to camp. Back at camp, he builds the fire up and makes soup. Simple broth, ingredients he's been stockpiling, rabbit meat, finally found that morning. He stirs it and adjusts the timing and adds things carefully, the way you do when cooking is a form of control over an uncontrollable situation. The girl's hair is an unusual color. He's never seen anything like it. Her clothes are simple but clearly manufactured. Someone in this world knows how to make fabric, which means civilization exists somewhere, which means he's not in some primordial wilderness with no hope of ever finding people. He stirs the soup, thinks about loneliness. He's been so busy surviving that he hasn't had time to notice how heavy the silence has been. Then a wolf walks out of the forest, and it's on fire. Not there's fire on it. Not it's surrounded by flames. It is a wolf made of or covered in living fire, wolf-shaped, wolf-sized, fur replaced entirely with burning flame. It walks from the treeline, crosses the clearing, and approaches the campfire. Our guy does not move. The spell is available. His spear is within reach. But the wolf isn't looking at him. It's looking at the fire. It lowers its head and starts eating the flames, actually consuming the fire, tongue lapping at the burning wood, swallowing flame like a creature eating a meal it's been looking forward to all day. Within minutes, the campfire is reduced to smoking embers. The wolf raises its head, looks around the clearing without apparent interest in the human sitting 3 meters away, and walks calmly back into the forest. Our guy stares at the smoking remains of his fire. A wolf, he says out loud, very quietly, that feeds on fire. He stays still for another full minute. Then he restarts the fire, because dinner still needs to be made. The girl wakes up. She jolts upright, grabs her head, and looks around in wide-eyed terror. She sees him, a stranger, sitting across a fire in the middle of a forest, and screams at full volume. He moves fast. His hand clamps over her mouth. He says clearly and immediately, "If you scream and attract wild animals, we are both in serious trouble." She goes rigid. He keeps his hand there, tells her clearly he's not going to hurt her. He carried her here because she was injured and unconscious next to a cliff. She needs to calm down, and then he'll explain everything. She shakes. He waits. Slowly, very slowly, the raw panic behind her eyes pulls back just enough for reason to take hold. He removes his hand. She slaps him across the face. Hard. He doesn't say anything. His cheek stings. He understands completely. If a stranger had grabbed him in the dark in a forest in another world, he would have done exactly the same. They sit on opposite sides of the fire. Her eyes are down. His cheek is red. The language barrier between them might as well be a concrete wall. He watches her stomach visibly growl, that involuntary, mortifying sound that hunger makes regardless of the situation, and makes the only decision that makes sense. He fills a bowl with soup and holds it out to her. She looks at it, then takes one small, cautious sip, then another. Then she eats every single drop. The silence after the bowl is empty, is different from the silence before it. Softer. She looks up at him, opens her mouth, and he understands every word she says. Not because she's suddenly speaking his language, because she used magic, something she calls language magic, an ability that reorganizes foreign sounds in her mind until they make sense. His language is complex, she warns him. She may not always find the right words, but she'll try. Her name is Kalala. She came into the mountains to gather medicinal herbs. She found a cliff tree and couldn't resist its pull. She fell. She doesn't know how long she was unconscious. Her village is on the other side of the mountain. With her healing magic, her leg needs about 3 weeks to fully recover. And then, quietly, looking at the fire instead of at him, she says she doesn't want to be a burden. She'd rather wait here alone than slow him down. Something in you changes at those words. He tells her firmly, he hasn't seen another person since he arrived in this world. She is the first human being he's spoken to in days. She is not a burden. She is the opposite of a burden. And besides, he is, by his own admission, a complete glutton. He's been eating randomly and carelessly since day one, stuffing himself without planning, without thinking ahead. Having someone else to feed will force him to actually be organized. He asks her to stay. She starts crying. Not loud, just the quiet, crumpling kind, like something she's been holding has finally given way. He doesn't make a big moment of it. He just adds more soup to her bowl. That night, they sleep in the hut with their backs turned to each other. Yu lies awake listening to the forest sounds and thinks about the girl behind him, about how quickly she offered to be abandoned, about how she treats her own presence in someone's life as a problem to be managed. Who taught her that? He falls asleep wanting to find out. The next morning, Yu is up before Kalala and out the door with his basket. 2 people to feed changes the math. He's been surviving on whatever he grabbed in whatever quantities seemed reasonable for one person. That era is over. He needs a real supply now. Things he can preserve, things that provide sustained energy, actual variety, so they're not eating the same 3 items every day. He moves through the forest with new purpose, testing everything, stockpiling safe items, building mental maps of where different things grow and how often they regrow. And then he spots a fruit high in a tree he's walked past a dozen times without noticing. He jumps for it, not a hop, a full force jump, and the ground falls away fast beneath him. He clears the height easily, snatches the fruit off the branch, lands smoothly. He stands there looking at his own legs. When did this happen? He's been here less than a week. He runs through the math. More food, different food, richer food. His body has been changing the entire time, quietly and continuously. Getting stronger, getting faster, getting more capable. Every meal a quiet upgrade he wasn't tracking. The fruit tastes like a less sweet apple with hidden complexity underneath. He adds it to the basket. He almost misses the plant entirely. Under the same tree, half hidden by fallen leaves and deeper shadow, a plant with a color so rich and unusual it looks artificial. Deep, saturated, wrong in the way that very rare things sometimes look. He pulls a leaf. Slightly tart smell. No bad feeling from his ability. He bites the edge. Fresh. Light sweetness. And then his fatigue is just gone. Not gradually, not a little. Completely. One moment he's carrying the weight of hours of walking. The next moment he feels like he slept a full night. He gathers as much as he can carry. When he returns to camp with his arms full, Kalala starts sorting through the supplies. She pauses, picks up one of the unusual leaves with 2 fingers and stares at it like she's seen a ghost. She looks at him, then at the pile, then at him again. Where did you find this? He tells her. Under a tree about 20 minutes back. He got a lot of it. Kalala is quiet for a moment. Then she explains carefully. This is called a magical herb. It contains what she calls magical particles, the basic unit of magical power in this world. Mages across the entire region seek this plant specifically because consuming it rapidly restores depleted magical ability. It is extremely rare. It is extremely expensive. 1 leaf, she tells him, is worth roughly 1,000 in local currency. He found 10,000 worth in a single morning. He looks at the pile he's been carrying around like grocery store spinach. I got a lot of it. Kalala explains further. The herb has a near-identical poisonous look-alike. The only way to distinguish them is that the real herb changes color when it senses magical power, a defense mechanism that also makes it nearly invisible to anyone who might want to harvest it. Finding this much in one location is, by her accounting, essentially impossible. He apparently stumbled directly into the one place in this entire mountain range where an enormous hidden colony of magical herb was quietly growing, and picked it all, without knowing what it was. He decides not to feel embarrassed about it, just grateful. He tells her to eat some immediately. She protests. It's too precious. They should preserve it. They shouldn't just consume something this valuable without careful consideration. He looks at her. He says, without raising his voice, but without leaving room for argument, "Stop." She blinks. "Stop putting yourself last," he says. "You are recovering from injuries. Your magical power is depleted. This plant restores magic. You're going to eat the plant. And stop saying bad things about yourself, because I'm genuinely glad you're here, and you've already taught me things I would have taken weeks to figure out on my own." A long pause. Something shifts in her expression. She eats the leaf. Her eyes go wide immediately. The texture, crisp, fresh, like biting into living energy. And then a wave of something she has no words for moves through her. Warmth, restoration, a light, pleasant dizziness like the world has gently tilted back to its proper angle. "It's the most delicious thing I've ever tasted," she says quietly. He grins. "Good. Now, let me cook dinner." That dinner is something else. He has the rock salt he found 2 days ago in a small ravine. Salt in the mountains is rare. Finding it was genuine luck. He has the salt clams Kalala identified from the rock deposit where he found them. He has mushrooms, wild vegetables, the strange sweet potatoes from earlier in the week, and 3 days of carefully stockpiled ingredients. He modifies the fire design, places a flat stone as a cooking surface, adjusts airflow to control temperature. He sharpens skewers and threads meat and vegetables in combinations that shouldn't work together, but do. He puts the mushrooms into a slow simmer with wild vegetable broth, adding things in the right order. He buries sweet potatoes in the hot coals. He places the salt clams and their shells directly on the stone surface and turns them constantly, letting the shells season the meat from the inside. Kalala watches him work with an expression she doesn't bother to hide. The smell from the fire changes. From survival camp, smoke, to something that actually makes you stop walking and turn your head. A real meal. A meal made with thought and care and genuine passion. They sit down together. Kalala takes her first spoonful of mushroom soup. The silence that follows is the best kind. The soup is clean and deep. The mushroom flavor absorbed perfectly into the vegetable broth. The clams are firm with a slight resistance that yields just right, broth pooled in the bottom of each shell, naturally salty and concentrated. The skewers carry that contrast between savory meat and the subtle sweetness of fruit that keeps you reaching for another. The sweet potatoes are exactly what they should be, soft, warm, uncomplicated. "I haven't eaten like this," Kalala says softly, "since before I came here." He doesn't respond, just refills her bowl. Over the next 3 days, they talk. Kalala teaches. You listens and absorbs at a speed that genuinely surprises her. She calls him a genius, and he doesn't deflect it this time, because when it comes to understanding systems, it's simply true. Magic turns out to be a system. It has rules. It has logic. He loves rules and logic. Here is what he learns. Magic exists in everything in this world. Every creature, every plant, every piece of food carries magical particles in varying amounts. Consuming them helps restore magical ability. The stronger the creature or plant, the higher the concentration of particles. And this, you realizes with quiet certainty, is why his body keeps getting stronger. Every meal in this world is quietly upgrading him. He mentions this observation carefully, that he's been feeling his body change. Kalala's eyes move to him. Then she says very gently, an ability to directly absorb power from food isn't something she's encountered before. It would be wise, she suggests, not to mention this to strangers. He files that away. Some things are worth protecting. Kalala's language magic improves across those 3 days. The conversations come easier. She stops choosing words carefully and simply speaks, and the real person underneath the self-doubt starts to emerge. Sharp observations. Dry humor at unexpected moments. A genuine love of storytelling that lights up her whole face. Every time she starts to say something diminishing about herself, he cuts it off. Gently, but consistently. She stops saying it as often, then stops saying it altogether, at least out loud. He watches the change happen and thinks, whoever taught her that her presence was a burden did real damage. He doesn't say this. He just keeps refilling her bowl. Then the evening arrives when everything changes. They're sitting by the fire after dinner, comfortable and quiet, when Kalala goes very still. Something is coming. A shape steps into the clearing from between the trees. For legs. Enormous antlers sweeping back like bone-carved swords. Eyes that catch the firelight and hold it. Cold, intelligent, and entirely without fear. Kalala's voice drops to barely a whisper. Derek, the king of this mountain. He's attacked and killed many hunters. If he decides we're a threat, she doesn't finish. She doesn't need to. Our guy looks at Derek. Looks at Kalala, still recovering, still unable to run. Looks at his stone axe in his hand, which is suddenly feeling very small. He makes a decision, and it is either the bravest or the most reckless thing he's done since waking up here. He turns and runs, not away from camp, toward the trees on the far side, away from Kalala. He yells at the top of his lungs, waves his arms, makes himself as loud and as noticeable as possible. The massive horned deer swings its head toward him. Then it charges. This is not like being chased by something you can outrun. Derek is the king of this mountain for a reason. The ground shakes with each stride. The antlers catch the moonlight as he closes the distance with terrifying speed, and our guy has approximately 1 second to make the right decision. He jumps hard to the left. Derek's charge misses by less than a meter. The momentum carries the beast forward, 20 meters, 30, before it turns, churning up the earth. The spell is active. You can feel the energy crackling against his skin. And with it, something else. His perception has sharpened, tracking Derek's movement, reading the shifts in weight and direction before they become actual motion. He can see what the deer is about to do before it does it. Derek lowers his massive head, gathers himself, and the air around him visibly changes. Something is happening. Energy flowing from the environment into the deer, concentrating in the antlers, making them glow faintly. Kalala's voice carries across the clearing. He's gathering external energy. Be careful. 3 times faster. Derek launches, and he's 3 times faster than before. Not twice. 3. The gap closes so quickly that the dodge is pure reflex. You leap straight up, the horns miss by a breath beneath his feet, and he lands in a roll as Derek thunders past. That was close. That was very, very close. He looks around quickly. He needs something to use. Running forever isn't a plan. Trees, too thin, might shatter. Rocks, not tall enough to matter. And then his eyes land on it. One large, old tree at the edge of the clearing. Thick trunk, deep roots. If he can get the antlers lodged in that trunk, he positions himself with his back directly against it, makes himself a target, starts yelling and waving like a man who has completely lost his mind, which, given the circumstances, is arguably accurate. Derek locks on, lowers the antlers, charges at full speed. He does not move. He does not move. He does not move. 1 second before impact, he throws himself sideways. Derek's antlers punch into the tree trunk with a sound like a cannon shot. Both antlers, deep into the wood, completely lodged. The beast struggles. The tree holds. He brings the stone axe up with everything he has and hits Derek on the head as hard as he can. The axe shatters. Not chips. Not cracks. It explodes into fragments in his hand. Derek shakes his head, the tree groan, and our guy realizes he has about 4 seconds before the most powerful beast on this mountain walks free and is now extremely angry. And then a sword slams into the ground directly in front of him. He blinks. He looks at it. He looks around and sees nothing hears only a voice from somewhere in the darkness shouting, "Hold on." He doesn't know who it belongs to. He doesn't have time to care. He grabs the hilt. Derek breaks free. The antlers catch you across the body and launch him backward. He hits a tree hard enough to shake the branches, slides down to the ground, back screaming in protest. But his hand is still on the sword. He still has it. He gets up. His back aches badly, but he gets up. Derek prepares the final charge. And our boy, holding a sword he's never used before, in a world he still doesn't understand, with borrowed courage and an aching back, charges forward and says out loud, "I won't give you a single chance." What happens next is short and decisive. The spell holds. The sword is sharp and well-balanced and designed for exactly this kind of force. Derek goes down. The most powerful beast on the mountain gone. Our guy kneels in the clearing with the sword planted in the dirt in front of him, leaning on the hilt, breathing hard. He says, "I did it." He sits there for a moment, feeling genuinely glad to be alive. Then he wonders, whose sword is this? The answer appears from the darkness. A girl, young, dressed in an elegant outfit that looks like a nun's habit, but clearly functional, clearly designed for combat. She looks like she might be in middle school. She looks, frankly, like she has absolutely no business being on a mountain in the dark fighting the king of the mountain. She steps forward to introduce herself, and her legs give out. She collapses. Our guy runs over, crouches down next to her. "What's happening? Are you hurt?" She opens her eyes and says, with immense dignity, "I am dying of hunger." He stares at her. She stares back. She passes out. He can't leave a second unconscious girl on this mountain. He carries her back to camp. The problem now is the deer. That much meat, left unprocessed overnight, is wasted, and meat like that is not something he can afford to waste. He warns Kalala he's going to work through the night, tells her she can sleep, and then he works. Draining, skinning, cutting. The sword makes the process much faster than the axe would have. The amount of meat that comes off Derek's carcass is extraordinary, enough to feed 3 people for a week. He divides it. A portion for tonight, a portion to preserve. Takes the best meat, the thigh, most flavorful and tender, and gets to work on something ambitious. He layers the meat with mushroom and vegetable filling. Wraps it in aromatic leaves to hold moisture inside during cooking. Then he mixes a slurry of clay and water and coats the whole package. A protective casing that will absorb the heat evenly from all sides. Makes a depression in the ground, places the package inside, covers it with burning wood. He settles in to watch the fire. Track the time by the moon's position, 15 degrees of movement per hour. And somewhere around the 3-hour mark, he falls asleep. A hand on his shoulder wakes him. Kalala, looking at him with quiet concern, telling him it's time. He checks the moon, checks the fire. Perfect timing. He breaks open the clay casing, peels back the leaves. The smell that escapes is so rich, so complex. The mushrooms, the aromatic leaves, the slow-rendered fat of the finest meat on this mountain. That Kalala makes an involuntary sound. The meat inside is stunning. A perfect slow-roasted deer leg, cooked from every direction, infused with everything he packed around it. The sword girl wakes up at exactly this moment. She shoots upright, sniffs the air, and says immediately, "I smell meat." "Where is it?" Kalala startles. The girl realizes what she's done and apologizes. Asks politely if she might have a piece. Kalala gives her a slice. She takes a bite and her eyes close. "Incredible," she says. "The taste is magical." She pauses, opens her eyes, apologizes again for her behavior. She should not be begging food from the people who rescued her. Our guy tells her she saved him first. Without that sword, he doesn't win that fight. He's the one who should be thanking her. Over the meal, she introduces herself. Her name is Cartier Freya. She is a knight of the temple. She serves the gods and helps people. She is 19 years old. She clarifies this before they can ask, with the practiced precision of someone who has spent 3 years watching people refuse to believe it. Kalala asks if she can really only become a knight after 18. Cartier confirms this. She has been 19 for a year. She is aware she looks younger. She is extremely used to it. Our guy thinks her personality does not match her appearance at all. He keeps this thought to himself. Cartier explains her mission. She was sent to this mountain to investigate reports of a dragon sighting. Rumors, possibly the sea. Our guy has been wanting to go since he spotted the coastline from the mountain summit. Now, with Kalala still recovering at camp, he and Cartier head down toward the water. He explains, this is about creatures. Sea creatures. What they might taste like. What abilities they might carry. Cartier, who has only recently learned that her companion's entire strategic outlook on this world is organized around mealtimes, processes this information without comment. He removes his shoes at the shoreline. The water is cold. Shallow fishing should work fine, and beyond fish he's hoping for crabs, shrimp, shellfish, anything unfamiliar. Cartier changes into a swimsuit, and our boy, who has spent most of his time in this world alone in the forest with no one to talk to, does not handle this with grace. He turns red, covers his eyes with his hand. Cartier looks at him and asks if something is wrong. He steps into the water and says loudly, "I'm ready to begin." He dives. The cold water hits him immediately, and yes, it does help. It helps a lot. Underwater, the seabed is extraordinary. Filtered sunlight turns the shallow water into something like a sapphire. Fish move in slow arcs below him. Similar to earth fish, but slightly redder, more fins, just slightly wrong in ways that feel significant. He spots a fat, promising one and starts planning his approach. Then his ears explode. An overwhelming, piercing, physical sound that isn't heard so much as felt. A pressure wave that hits his eardrums with enough force to make him clap his hands to the sides of his head. He rockets to the surface, breaks through gasping, ears ringing, heart rate spiked. Cartier surfaces next to him. "Did you hear that? Are you okay?" He's okay. He asks about the fish. She identifies it immediately. When it senses danger, it inhales water, expands its body like a balloon, and then releases the pressure as sound, a defense mechanism that sends most predators retreating fast. It's physically painful to be near when it fires. He thinks about it for half a second and says, "It must be delicious." Cartier stares at him. He dives again. The loud fish has fled. He looked for something else. A fish with a flattened head catches his attention. Unremarkable coloring, funny looking, slow moving. Not threatening at all. He approaches carefully. The fish senses him and does something unexpected. It begins releasing clouds of tiny bubbles from its body. A cloud of distraction, buying time to escape. Our boy is faster. He throws his harpoon. It goes clean through. He surfaces with the catch. Dive twice more. Ends up with 3 of the bubble fish. Back at camp, Kalala sees the catch and lights up immediately. She identifies them as babbling fish, well known near her village, excellent when simmered over low heat, but often caught wrong, often ruined by people who don't understand how to prepare them. He has already figured out the gill structure. The gills have small pores. That's where the bubbles come from. Those same pores absorb oil if the fish is fried, ruining the flavor. Low heat, slow simmer. He knows what to do. He cleans the first 2 fish efficiently. Cartier watches with the expression of someone watching a professional at work in a field they know nothing about. The 3rd fish he opens and stops. Parasites. Small, wriggling, unmistakably present. He removes them calmly, explains that this is normal, explains that the parasites are removed rather than cooked around. Cartier turns slightly pale. Cartier does not say anything. He makes 2 dishes. The fish meatball soup is straightforward. Mince the fish, combine with potato starch, wild ginger and onion, crack in eggs, salt, roll into balls and simmer. But the second preparation is different. He selects the cleanest fish, fillets it carefully, slices it very thin, and arranges it on a wide, flat stone. He sets it in front of Kalala and Cartier. The silence lasts about 2 seconds. Then, "Is it cooked? Can you really eat it raw? I heard it causes diarrhea." He says he'll eat it himself then. They don't have to. Both girls start begging him not to eat it. He eats it anyway. His face, when the flavor hits, is not something he can control. The texture, silky, delicate, yielding perfectly. The citrus sauce he made from fruit he found earlier completely masks the oceanic smell and replaces it with something fresh and bright. And underneath, a rich umami depth, like sea bream, but sweeter, complex in ways that keep unfolding. He says, extraordinarily delicious. The girls exchange a look. Then, very carefully, they each take a piece. And then, the expressions. Kalala. It's perfectly salty and sweet at the same time. The flavor is so rich. Cartier. There's no fishy smell at all. How is there no smell? He explains the citrus sauce. Vitamin C and citrus compounds bond with the aromatic compounds that cause the fishy smell, neutralizing them. Freshness is everything. He explains that raw fish is perfectly safe if it's fresh and free of parasites, and he checked both of these things personally. Then he tells them a story. An expedition in extreme cold. The only available food was sea fish caught through holes in the ice. Everyone in the group except the local guy died. Their skin bled, their teeth fell out, they looked like they were dissolving. The girls are horrified. He explains, the disease is scurvy. Vitamin C deficiency. The guide ate raw fish. Everyone else cooked theirs. Vitamin C is fragile. It breaks down rapidly with heat. Cook the fish and the vitamin is gone. Eat it raw and it's preserved. The guide's culture ate raw fish as normal practice. The other's culture always cooked it. That single cultural difference killed an entire expedition. He looks at them. This dish is not just delicious. It's genuinely nutritious, in ways that matter. Cartier asks, so cooking always destroys the nutrients? He clarifies, some foods retain their nutrients through cooking, sweet potatoes, many vegetables. But fish is particularly vulnerable to heat. The fresher the fish and the lower the processing, the more value it holds. That's why it's eaten immediately after catching. The further from water, the higher the risk. Kalala asks quietly about the parasites. He confirms. He has a way of identifying parasites before preparing the fish. The ones he selected were clean. She can trust the preparation. Cartier starts to say something about parasites and then stops. Then starts again. Then says, with considerable effort, those wriggling, stomach pain, it's disgusting. He tells her calmly. Everything she ate was verified clean. The sashimi she just told him was delicious, contained 0 parasites. He will stake his reputation as the best cook in this world on that. Kalala asks for seconds. Later, testing his new abilities, our guy discovers things that concern him a little. He can jump. Not high. Not regular high. Considerably, remarkably, unreasonably high. He can punch. Not hard. Not regular hard. Hard enough to shatter rock without his hand showing a single bruise. And when he tries to access the energy from the bubble fish, his whole body becomes coated in white foam-like bubbles. A living cloud of them, surrounding him entirely, making him look like a man who lost a fight with a soap dispenser. Cartier finds him in this state. She stops walking and stares. He says, I'm testing abilities. She says nothing. She is clearly processing several things at once. The bubbles fade when he stops focusing. He stands there in the forest being looked at by a temple knight who is revising her assessment of who exactly she's been traveling with. He thinks, in terms of looking impressive, that could have gone better. Kalala is recovering faster than expected. 3 days, maybe less. Her healing magic, restored by the magical herb and supported by the best meal she's had in months, is working at a level that surprises even her. In 3 days, she'll be able to walk. That's the good news. The bad news is Cartier. Our guy's been noticing it for a few days, a subtle worsening. Slightly slower, slightly less sharp. She's sleeping in the new house he has not yet built, which means she's sleeping on the ground, in an unfamiliar forest, with whatever insects live in that forest. He asks directly. She deflects. He says, if you're sick, keeping quiet about it will become everyone's problem. Tell me. She covers her face with her hand. Says she can't sleep. Has been waking up multiple times every night. Only slept deeply once, their first night together, when she was so exhausted she couldn't stay awake. And a reason? Insects. She admits with visible mortification, genuinely terrified of insects. All of them. Caterpillars, beetles, termites. The feeling of one moving near her causes a physical panic response. She has been lying awake for nights, feeling like things are crawling all over her skin. He tells her she should have said something 3 days ago. There are solutions. She looks up. For insects, he is already heading out with an axe. It takes most of a day. He chops medium-sized trees near the camp. His enhanced strength means work that would take a crew of people several days is done in hours. He uses Cultivation's knife to cut vines from the rock for binding. He identifies the right large-leaf plants for wall material and sends Cultivation to gather them. Then he builds. Posts go into the ground. They're connected with horizontal beams and bound with vine rope. The frame goes up in one continuous motion. Post, beam, bind, next post. The walls are the leaves, layered and overlapping in a specific pattern that Kalala and Cultivation execute while he handles the structural timber. A stone fire pit is arranged inside. A door made of the remaining leaves hung on a vine hinge. By late afternoon, a real structure stands in the camp clearing. Not a palace, but a house. Walls that stop wind. A floor that keeps bodies off the wet ground. A ceiling that keeps rain out. Cultivation looks at it and says, "How did you build this in one afternoon?" He says, "I read about it once." She says, "You read about it once." He goes inside to arrange the fire pit. The smoke trick is simple. Light the fire, let it burn down to coals. Let the smoke fill the interior. Then bank the coals to keep smoldering. Insects hate smoke. They will not approach a space that consistently smells of it. Cultivation's nights of lying awake feeling phantom insects on her skin are over. He explains this while building the interior. Kalala says he's like a walking encyclopedia. He says he just happened to read about old construction methods once out of curiosity, and no one could have predicted this would be the context where that information became useful. Cultivation thanks him. Not the polite, formal thanks of a temple knight fulfilling a social obligation. The real kind. The kind that costs something to say. He tells her, "Sleep well. Tomorrow they might need you." He doesn't explain why he said that. He just felt like it needed saying. The iron turtle appears 2 days later on a forest path. Cultivation spots it first. She warns him. Powerful beast, excellent reflexes, spikes protruding from the shell. Hunters have been badly injured trying to approach one. He looks at the iron turtle. He grabs it by the spikes. The spikes are sharp. With the spell active, they feel like touching a rough wall. He holds the turtle at arm's length while it struggles and tells it, firmly, not to move. Cultivation runs over asking if he's okay. He's fine. He's holding a small fortress in his hands by its own spikes and thinking about dinner. The preparation is careful. Turtle meat has a reputation. Tough, with a distinctive smell that most people can't get past. He disagrees with the conclusion that most people draw from this. The problem isn't the meat. The problem is the preparation. He cuts it, rinses it thoroughly, salts it evenly, and leaves it to marinate under leaves weighted with stones. While the meat marinates, he makes the sauce. The herb Cultivation gathers for him turns out to be a glass trap plant. A predatory plant that looks unremarkable until any living thing touches its leaves, at which point roots erupt from the ground and grab with remarkable speed. Small creatures are held until they suffocate. Large ones are immobilized for whatever predator wanders past. The leaves, notably, are edible. They taste like a cross between something peppery and a sweet prune. He tears them into the pressed juice of several sweet fruits, mixes thoroughly, pours the mixture into the turtle shell itself, which is thick enough to function as a cooking pot, and simmers everything together for hours. He grinds the marinated meat into mince, adds turtle eggs and Cultivation's emergency flour ration as binders, rolls everything into meatballs. He renders down the last of the saved deer fat from Derek. When it's shimmering in the pan, he adds the meatballs. The sound, that immediate, satisfying sizzle, makes everyone within 10 meters turn their head. The dish, turtle meatballs in sweet and sour sauce. Golden brown exterior. Sauce that smells of fruit and herbs, and something harder to name. The smell of the meat has been completely overwhelmed. Cultivation. The meat is tender. The flavor is incredible. Kalala. The sauce completely covered the smell. How's it this fresh? Our guy eats one and decides he was right. The meat was never the problem. The preparation was the problem, and now that problem is solved. After the meal, they try to figure out the new abilities. The iron turtle has spikes. You imagine spikes appearing on his body. Nothing. He tries to imagine his feet taking root, like the glass trap plant. Nothing. His stomach makes a suspicious sound, and he decides that this is probably not an ability. Kalala, watching his attempts with quiet attention, says maybe they need to be combined. Maybe the spike trap isn't two separate abilities. Maybe it's one ability built from two components. He thinks about this. He thinks about cooking. The best dishes aren't single ingredients. They're the right combination of separate things that become something new together. You can't get that flavor from either ingredient alone. He focuses the energy on his fingertips. Not for a shell. Not for strength. For something that combines the growth reflex of the glass trap with the defensive hardness of the iron turtle. A small plant grows directly from the ground in front of him. Cartier throws a stone at it experimentally. The trap springs. Thorns erupt upward with an audible snap. The speed genuinely startling, even as someone who knew what was coming. He looks at Kalala. She's blushing and saying it was just a random thought. He says, that random thought just gave me a new ability. And then the shadow falls across the clearing. Massive. Moving. Crossing the camp in a single pass. All three of them look up at the same moment. A dragon. Real, actual, enormous. Wings spreading wide enough to block a significant portion of the sky. Flying directly overhead. Close enough that the wind from its passage moves the treetops. No one speaks for what feels like a very long time. Cartier is the first. I didn't actually think there was a dragon. I thought it was a rumor. My mission, she stops. My mission was correct. You exhales slowly and deliberately, because he has to remind himself to breathe. One glance at this creature, just one pass overhead, and something in his chest went cold in a way the Derek fight never managed. Derek was dangerous. This is different. This is a category of dangerous he doesn't have good words for yet. Kalala says, very quietly, we can't stay here. If we stay, everyone dies. She's right. The decision is simple. The execution is not. Kalala's leg still isn't fully healed. The village is multiple days of travel away. There are dangerous creatures throughout the route. And now there is confirmed dragon territory somewhere on this mountain. They discuss the path. Cartier notes that moving through the forest canopy reduces their visibility from above. Kalala hesitantly indicates a direction. The dragon didn't fly that way, as far as she could tell. She isn't certain, but she thinks the village is in that direction. If they find the right elevated position first, she can map the route more precisely. He makes the call. They leave at first light. That night, he moves around the camp packing supplies. Takes items from his own world that have no equivalent here. The utility knife, the lunchbox, the water bottles refilled from the stream. The stone axe he leaves. The basket he leaves. The turtle shell he considers and decides against. Too heavy for what it provides. The deer hide he takes. It might repel animals on instinct. It might provide warmth if they can't find shelter at night. He pulls out the double-bladed spear he made from Derek's antlers. He made it himself, working carefully, but never used it in real combat. It feels solid in his hands. He ties it to the pack. He takes as much dried meat as the pack can hold. He looks around the camp one last time. The house, the fire pit, the drying rack, the stone-bordered fire. His first home in another world. He built all of it from nothing in 2 weeks. He shoulders the pack and walks to where the girls are waiting. The morning is cold and clear. They set off before full light. Cartier carrying Kalalan back for the sections where the path is rough, you ranging slightly ahead to scout and clear obstacles. The forest moves differently in the early morning. Quieter, more careful, like it knows something is sharing the mountain with them. They move in near silence. The first real stop is a high point Kalala identifies, a rocky outcropping with enough elevation to see the terrain properly. Kalala studies the landscape from up here with the careful eyes of someone who knows how mountains work. Traces features, matches what she can see to what she knows of the area. She points in a direction. The village is there, more or less. If they go down that slope and keep to the left edge of the forest rather than the exposed ridge, They can avoid most of the dangerous areas and stay out of sight from above. It will take 2 to 3 days on foot. They rest at the outcropping and eat dried meat, the fruit from Yu's pack. They sit in the weak morning sun with the wind moving across the mountain, and for a moment, just a moment, the beauty of where they are actually lands. Kalala is looking at him with a small smile. He asks what? She says, "You're thinking about food again. You always smile when you think about food." Cartier agrees. Food made with real feeling is the most delicious. We survive because of you. And your hobby. He sits with this for a moment. In his old world, his food obsession was a quirk that people tolerated at best. Here, it's the reason 3 people are alive and heading home instead of bones at the bottom of a cliff. He doesn't say this out loud, but it settles somewhere warm in his chest. He says, "When we get to the village, I'll cook for everyone." Kalala says she'd love that. Cartier says she's already looking forward to it. He says they should eat and keep moving before it gets dark. They're halfway through the dried meat when a shadow comes. It sweeps across the mountain without warning. The same enormous shape, the same wingspan blocking the sun, the same cold certainty that this is a creature in a completely different category of power. But this time, it doesn't pass over. This time, it descends. The dragon circles once above their position, then begins coming down. Yu is on his feet immediately, the deer antler spear in both hands. Get ready. Danger from above. Kalala's face is pale. It takes at least 5 warriors to... There are 2 of us, Yu says. That's nearly half. He looks at Cartier. She already has her sword drawn. She says, "If a civilian is willing to fight, a knight of the temple cannot back down." He nods. He tells Cartier, he's bigger and more durable. He'll be the distraction, draw the dragon's attention, keep it focused on him. She attacks from a position it doesn't expect. They need speed and angles. Cartier asks if he understands how dangerous this makes him personally. He asks if she has a better plan. She doesn't. Kalala stands behind them. She can't run. She can't fight the dragon directly. But she does something. She presses her hands to the shaft of Yu's spear and whispers a spell. The wooden hilt, the part of any weapon most vulnerable to catastrophic failure under real force, hardens. Reinforced. She does what she can. "Come back," she says quietly. "Both of you," she adds. The dragon lands 20 meters from them. It doesn't charge immediately. It looks at them. There's something in that look that is not the blind rage of Derek, not the territorial reflex of a cornered animal. This is intelligence assessing a situation. Our guy doesn't wait for the assessment to finish. He activates the spell and the charm simultaneously. The spell wraps him in crackling energy. The charm radiates outward, a pull, a lure, the biological signal that drew animals to him in the forest, now aimed at the largest creature he's ever been near. White smoke rises between him and the dragon. He raises his voice and says, "I've been in this world for 2 weeks. I've eaten the king of this mountain. I want to eat a dragon next. So come at me." Cartier, somewhere behind him, makes a sound. He doesn't look back to determine what kind of sound it is. The dragon responds. It fixes entirely on him. The intelligent consideration is gone, replaced by something more immediate. It swings its massive head, takes a breath, and lunges. The paw comes in with force that could crush stone. Yu drives the spear forward and catches the strike. The reinforced wood holds, the impact traveling up through his arms and into the spell's absorption. He's pushed back 3 full meters. His heels leave furrows in the mountain earth. He holds. The dragon attacks again and again. Our boy keeps reading the intention before it becomes movement. The spell-enhanced perception that let him track Derek, now tracking something exponentially more powerful. He can't match its strength. He's not trying to. He's creating an opening. He shouts to Cartier now. She moves like something out of a story. A single leap that covers a distance no human should be able to cover. Temple Knight physical training made real and visible. She brings the blade down with everything she has. The dragon turns its head and stares at the mark she's left on its scales. The wound is shallow. Too shallow. The scales are like layered armor, and the edges of the cut are already pulling together. healing at a rate that makes Cartier's expression go flat with alarm. "It's not enough," she says. "We know the weapon can hurt it," you says. "That's enough for now." The dragon turns toward Cartier. Its attention shifts. Something in the way she moved has registered as a threat. He does not allow this. He pulls the dried meat from his pack. The charm ability amplifies. A concentrated lure, the smell of food from the kill of the mountain's most powerful beast, aimed directly at a creature that can smell across half a mountain range. The dragon's head swings back toward him. It works. The dragon locks onto you like a compass finding north. The charm is functioning even at this scale. He is the priority threat again. Cartier has a window. He needs to buy more time. He looks at the ground. He focuses. He presses his hand to the earth and grows the trap plant directly in the dragon's path. The dragon steps forward into it. The thorns erupt, fast, sharp, driving upward into the thick scales of the creature's foot. The dragon roars, a sound that moves through the mountain like a physical wave, that makes the rocks shake, that sends birds screaming out of trees 100 meters away. It stops moving. For 3 seconds, the thorns hold. Then the dragon tears its foot free. Not carefully, not with effort. It simply decides the thorns aren't there anymore, and they cease to be. The plants rip out of the ground. The wound on the foot is minor, barely a scratch on something this size. It looks at you. Our guy has used the spell. He has used the charm. He has used the trap plant. He has the spear. He has Cartier on the field. And the dragon is still standing. Still functional. Still looking at him with those cold, intelligent eyes. The mountain is quiet around them except for the sound of wind and the sound of his own heartbeat. He tightens his grip on the spear. He does not back down, because he's a boy from another world who has eaten his way to powers no one in this world has heard of, who has survived every impossible thing this mountain has thrown at him so far, who has 2 people behind him who are counting on him to find the next move, and he has not run out of ideas yet. The dragon shifts its weight. The mountain holds its breath, and that is where this story stops. The dragon battle is not over. The village is still days away. Kalala still needs to get home. Cartier's mission is only half complete, and our boy still hasn't tried dragon meat. Whatever happens next, in this world, the story is just getting started. If you want to see what happens when the dragon fight ends, drop a comment, hit that subscribe button, and like the video so we know to keep going. See you in the next one.